Welcome to episode 6 of Dual Boot Diaries, the weekly podcast where, you know what? I'm not going to do my normal intro because we have a special person here. I'm Adam.
Will Smith.
Yeah, we've got Will. We are on location in a
undisclosed location.
No, we can disclose we're in Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
With Intel, we can't talk about anything on that, but we can say we're here. And luckily,
I'm also here.
I flew in. I got on the bus to come over to the resort, and Wendell popped on the bus from Level1Techs. You might know him on our Discord because we've been talking about you on our Discord as the final boss of the Dual Boot Diaries.
I like to think of it as the patron saint of Linux users everywhere.
Yeah. Either way, if we're the noobs to Linux, you are the expert. You're the grandmaster.
Yeah, I'd like to try to it's like Linux can solve a lot of problems. It's a lot of fun. I don't know, grandmaster. I do like Linux for getting out of the way and letting me get work done.
Well, I'm excited to talk to you on this podcast. It's our journey. We're noobs. Our journey of trying to use desktop Linux. We're chronicling it with people week in, week out, and we've got questions for you. We're going to dive into some specific stuff, but also I think it'd be kind of fun for us to go over our homework that we've been doing, and maybe you could be like the teacher's assistant and grade us.
Okay.
Well, and also we're doing this a little earlier than we normally do.
True. Yeah. So we're recording this Sunday. We usually have been recording a Wednesday.
I'm just going to say
for the past week or two.
Yeah, the dog ate some of my homework, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
So,
I'm hearing some procrastination. You should always do your homework immediately because you never know.
Well, and the thing you say Linux is nice because it gets out of the way and lets you get your work done. I often, as somebody who's new to this, it's given me an infinite number of things to futz with. So like that's nice that I have something to look forward to getting the work done again instead of just being like, I'm going to install a new window manager and see what happens.
So the calculus is also different when you have an infinite amount of things to futz with, and that is the futzing that you do tends to be immutable and will last a very, very long time.
Well, but the other thing is I'm still new enough that I'm afraid I'm going to futz and then I'm going to really futz my stuff up.
No, and there's some good bookkeeping.
You say that, but like, if I mess up my work laptop, this one, I have this laptop, which is the serious work laptop. And then I have the futzing laptop, which I left at home for this trip that the real futzing happens on. I'm just to keep saying futzing all episode.
Brought to you by futzing. Well, listen, for people who don't know who you are, Wendell, I would be surprised if people don't know who you are. But if they don't know who you are, please explain who you are, other than the final boss of the Dual Boot Diaries.
I'm an internet rando. I have a YouTube channel, Level1Techs, and there's an internet forum. There's a lot of people. I've been using Linux a really, really, really absurdly long time, and that's fun. It's a lot of fun, and so I have thoughts and feelings on Linux use, and I'm always glad to help new Linux users. And so I like to live vicariously by your experiences.
Well, one of the things I've found is that when I have a weird problem and I search this problem and then I put forum at the end, because it turns out that's a good way to find the answer to Linux problems.
Actually, that is a good tip.
Is it like 3 times out of 5 Level1Techs is like a top 3 result.
Yeah, I try to write down everything that anytime I help somebody, it's like go write down what we did on the forum, or somebody emails me and it's like, that sounds like a good post on the forum. You shouldn't just email me. You should post that on the forum. I get messages in Discord too. And it's like, I had this weird problem in Discord. It's like, that sounds like something you should post on the forum because other people will have that problem and Discord is not searchable. And this doesn't live on in Discord. And I know the instant gratification of Discord is amazing, but we have to put this on the internet.
Well, and I've found myself multiple times on this journey being like, should I just call Wendell? I think I could probably just call Wendell.
He's going to tell you to post on the forum, it sounds like.
Oh, yeah. There's the answer.
Even if you don't, I will write it up. So like stuff that I do, I will literally just go write down the thing that I did because I don't want to remember either.
Oh, see, this is because my solve for this is that when I figure something out, I chuck it into Notion or like whatever simple text style, text storage mechanism I'm using. And then I have it, but it's not there for everybody else.
Yeah.
And your solution of maybe I should put it there for everybody else is really smart. So.
I like the forum for that. I'm an absurd Obsidian power user, and I like Git and version control and text files, and so I do have a lot of stuff there as well. But when I'm working on this kind of stuff, I will post there. And a lot of the time, like stuff that I post, it's like you have to be comfortable with looking like a complete idiot. It's like, here are the steps that I did. This is probably a me problem. I have no idea what I'm doing, but this is what I did. And then my understanding can improve over time. And then you can edit the post and be like, here's the thing that I did.
Well, don't worry. I'm okay looking like a complete idiot.
That's true.
It's my whole persona on YouTube. Before we get into our homework, I want to hear from you a couple things. Number one, where did your Linux journey start?
This is sort of a fun story. It was in high school, and the high school was a hardcore IBM, thing. And in high school, it was a token ring network.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So kind of like, and they
puts a real timeline on your high school years there.
Yeah. So sort of really ancient. But it was like bleeding edge. And they also, actually the token ring was on its way out. There was Ethernet, but most of the computers were token ring. And so, because they were all from the dawn of time, because, poor Kentucky. So remember that Kentucky's also running 20 years behind. And so all the new computers were Ethernet, but all of the existing stuff was token ring. And so like getting on the internet was all token ring based. So another student and I were like, how can we solve this problem? And Linux was a way to solve the problem. You could build a machine that would do, it was called IP masquerading at the time. And so and it became network address translation. And so Linux would let you do IP masquerading to host or to provide a gateway, an IP gateway. And so Ethernet token ring, it no longer mattered. And Linux was the way to solve that problem. And so we figured out how to solve that problem. And that set everyone's teeth on edge, because it was like, the students figured out how to do this without spending $10,000. And that made everybody like unhappy.
So in another world, you could have ended up running IT for your school district when you graduated from high school.
My favorite thing about that is eventually somebody from the state came and they were like, we appreciate what you did through gritted teeth, but we really have to only have supported solutions in the school. And I was like, well, I mean, should we have like a bake sale? And we could have a bake sale to raise the money to buy the equipment so that the computers will work the way that they should in the first place. And like, what kind of costs are we talking about? And he's like, oh, it's probably about $10,000 to get the equipment that we need. And something that he had said in the conversation was, like, we have to have a supported solution and, it has to be manageable or whatever. And I was like, wow, if you can save $10,000 in one school, don't you think it's worth your time to learn how to do this? He was very unhappy.
Oh, man. Wendell, making friends left and right.
Oh, it's fantastic.
But when you're saying Linux back then, you're just talking about command line.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like Slackware back then, right?
Yeah.
Were there desktop versions of Linux back then?
Yeah.
Yeah. Debian, you could use the Debian GUI.
Okay.
X was the thing. X4, it was an X386. It wasn't that old.
It was basically made it like a Spark machine at that point.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. Kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was not we're talking like Windows 98, Windows ME in that era. And so like Windows 2000. And it was an interesting sort of dichotomy between using Linux and using it to solve problems and using it for interesting stuff, and also learning about like text editing, because I remember like looking at like VI and Emacs in that era, and it's like, why is this so complicated to edit a file? This seems absurd. And then you dig into it and you look at it and it's like, oh, this is interesting. And then it becomes like a mind virus.
So we had a conversation about VI because we were talking about VI a little bit last week, and my co-host on the Tech Pod, Brad Shoemaker, has long been on team. I need to learn enough VI that I can, edit text on just a kernel when something goes real bad, right? Which is perfectly reasonable solution that I like to give him a lot of grief about, because modal text editors are weird. And then somebody posted a picture of the keyboard that they used to develop VI on, where there's no arrow keys. And you're like, oh, okay, this explains a lot. This explains everything about this weird system. So
yeah, I remember reading about all of that, like a teletype. Mm-hmm. And I read a lot of old Usenet posts that it's like we wanted to minimize the amount of characters that would come across on the teletype because resource usage and whatever. And so like editing a file on a teletype is like one of the use cases. And it's like, my goodness.
So it's perfectly reasonable to continue using a text editor designed to minimize the number of characters you have to transfer across a modem connection.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it's 35, 40 years later.
I do have to say that I like the way that the key binding happens.
Okay.
And so like having the Vim and NeoVim, like NeoVim is kind of the modern version of that, where it's like, okay, we're going to have the philosophy of that, but it's not, they're not trying to minimize the characters. They're just trying to make it a more reasonable editing experience. Because it is nice not to have to take your hands off of the keyboard in order to do navigation.
It's good for RSI.
Yeah.
There you go. So it's funny because Will kind of started like you in the command line. So, you've used Linux.
Since the 90s.
Yeah.
I didn't anger the state school board doing it.
Yeah, right. But I've pretty much only ever used the GUI based stuff. So when did you make the switch, or not the switch, but when did you start using like desktop versions?
I mean, I was using the graphical version of Linux around then, but I've also been kind of like equal opportunity operating system. So I've been probably, all through college. I went to college for computer science, and that was a VAX system. Ugh. And, or at least for like the first year or so. And then they were like, oh, we shouldn't do that. That's insane. And so I got to use the VAX for like a year or so. But I used Linux all through computer science and through all the computer science stuff. And that was a C and C++ based curriculum. And so like using Linux for that was fine. And the graphical experience as it was reasonable then for what I needed to do for computer science. So it was fine. I did play games. And so like I would use Windows for games. I disliked Windows 2000 the least. That was fun. And the Windows XP maybe later was like, okay, but I've used all of the Windows, and I've used all of the only operating system that I had trouble getting behind was Mac OS. And that's just because like when they went to Unix, it was like, this is going to be great. It's going to be awesome. And then Apple did a lot of really in like the cups guy and like some of the stuff they did in development. It was like, there was no reason for Apple to act in this way with these projects like cups and some other open source.
They made some weird Samba choices and stuff like that along the way.
And they really, I feel like they really railed the Bash guys. It's like, we're going to make all these improvements to Bash and changes to Bash. And then it's like, well, contribute them back. And I was like, okay, because you guys asked for us to contribute something back, we're only going to use obsolete versions of Bash from now on in Mac OS. And it's like, you know what? I'm done. I don't need to play this game. I'm just no Apple.
Yeah. Well, that's something we can all agree on. Yeah. Except for him.
I was going to say the VAX thing. It's funny you say that because when I was a student at University of Tennessee, they gave every student a VAX account because that's how we signed up for classes after they moved off of the take a card around and get stamps on it system. And the only way you could get access to the Unix machine was by taking CS classes. But you only had to take one, and then you were in the system forever, and you had shell space and everything on the Unix machine. So that's what all the nerds did, is we'd all sign up for CS100, just stay through right until the drop window, and then hope that they didn't delete the account after you dropped the class. I foolishly stayed all the way through. I was like, oh, I shouldn't do this. This is a bad path for me. But yeah, so should we get into homework a little bit?
Let's get into some homework. Yeah. So this is episode 6. So we're still really early into our efforts here. So be patient, please.
The story so far, though. Adam spent 4 episodes deciding which distro he was going to use.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
That's fun. It's fun to live vicariously that way.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't think we need to get too deep into it.
He went to Germany.
I went to try to use it for a work trip. I mean, you dove right in with this laptop, so you've been running.
I've been eyeing Cashew for a while, if I'm being honest.
Yeah. So, apropos of nothing, let's get into the homework kind of stuff. I mean, there's not a ton to get into here. I'll start off.
Yeah, go for it.
So one of them, and maybe you can help with this. I did actually get some feedback in our Discord too, that in certain web pages in Chrome, because that's what I like to use. I like to use Chrome. I'm sorry.
Adam loves Google, well established.
The fonts resolve weird.
Fuzzy?
No, they're like. Let me see if I can find a example, because you're literally sitting right here. But there's some text that I'm just like, wait, why? That it's like the casing is weird. And now, of course, I'm not. No, that's not one of them. So there's recommendations.
Yeah.
There's recommendations on like what it could be. I think you had mentioned about like hardware acceleration.
Yeah, in
like
the browser.
Yeah. Another person said that it might be the fonts, like I need to install a more open font,
like Robo
pack or something like that.
Robo fonts or something.
That I'm missing like a real basic font package. I can't find anything right now. But does that sound familiar at all?
Yeah, there are. I mean, a lot of the fonts that are out there are licensed and commercial, and it's like somebody wants money if you're going to include it in a distro, and it's like it's not always free use. Google has a lot of fonts that they have created that are substitutes for some of the ones that were more problematic from a licensing standpoint. And so you might be missing that package on your Ubuntu.
And they're like MIT licensed or something like that, so they're freely accessible and distributable.
Yeah.
So here I'm actually on the Adobe website.
Oh no.
So like look, it's very subtle.
Oh yeah.
But you can see like the actual like casing is weird.
Wendell's opening the inspector.
Yeah. So for audio people, he's looking at code.
It's on the web browser set. So it's looking for Adobe-Clean, Helvetica, Arial, and Sans Serif. So probably I would guess that you don't have Adobe Clean. Or
Helvetica.
The Helvetica that you have installed is almost certainly not the legit Helvetica. It is
Yeah. Well, okay. So
wait, he's got a bootleg Helvetica.
Yeah.
So that's the worst. I don't want to bootleg Helvetica.
Yeah.
Well,
but you can install it.
Yeah. Well, and that is the thing, I guess. Like, you know, it's a theme we keep talking about here is like trying to figure out like, okay, what's a Linux thing? Like, I thought maybe it was a Chrome thing. Like, why does it have to be this hard? Like in Windows, I never had this issue.
Is this a fresh install of 2404 LTS, or did you go from 22 to 24?
I upgraded.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's why.
Oh, why?
Because you still have the 22 package for fonts.
Oh, but wait, but that's not part of the upgrade?
Not a forced part of the upgrade.
Oh my.
Oh, so he checked the wrong box. It's a user error. It sounds like to me.
It's not really a user error, but there is this idea in Ubuntu of like the packages from Canonical, and then you have like the universe and the multiverse. And so you could have a package from Multiverse when you need the Canonical package, or vice versa.
What's the differentiator on those? Licensing?
Some of it is licensing, and some of it is also just like, where does it come from? Because if it comes from the core repos, Canonical has signed off on it. Canonical is responsible. If Adobe comes with, fire and brimstone, Canonical will be responsible. Whereas in Multiverse, it's like, this is from Joe the plumber in like Saskatchewan who has created this package, and it's part of Multiverse.
Well, but like the thing is, like, it's like, okay, as an end user, that's
how
frustrating.
Yeah.
Like, because now you're telling me like, oh, there's things that weren't forced into that upgrade. Now, the first thing I thought of was like, oh, what else was not part of?
Should have done a clean install.
This is exactly the thing that Windows users were experiencing in the Windows 2000 to Windows XP days.
Oh.
This is why when Windows users today are like, I'm gonna just do an upgrade from Windows 10 to 11, I kind of shudder and something inside me dies a little bit.
Yep.
Even though it's been fine since like Windows 7 era to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's I know you don't like the terminal, and I don't know what the GUI equivalent of it is off the top of my head. I really should. I should spend more time with those kind of things. But there's a package manager called Aptitude. And if you run that in the terminal, it gives you some more. And Aptitude will tell you things about like, hey, this package recommends this other package.
Oh, that would be cool.
So there's like a meta level of the
Okay, I like, but it'll help not just for that. It might help with some other stuff that like I just don't even know. Well, because the other thing too, like I did do that reminds me. Somebody was like, I was trying to get all the video codecs because I was getting ready to maybe do some video editing, and there was a command to say like forced upgrade, and I don't remember because it was a licensing thing for whatever the video codecs that needed a license. So it's probably like that.
You got that K-Lite?
I don't remember. I don't know.
You got to be careful. You get the wrong place, you get a bunch of viruses. That's all I know.
It's an exciting time when Linux has the problems that Windows had just a few years ago. It's like we're catching up. The hockey stick is.
Just wait until we add UAC to Linux, then people are going to be really excited.
Oh well, I know the guy.
I mean,
yeah, but you need to fade out the whole screen. If you have the wrong video driver, it needs to take like 3 seconds for that to happen.
Oh, we know the guy. So well, okay. So the next one is some applications. When I launch them, they default to the top left of the window, and some of them come back in the spot where I left them.
Yeah, that's the thing that happens sometimes. There are helpers that will override and control window placement But I often find those to be worse than the medicine is worse than the cure.
Really?
Discord is the classic example of that, I think.
No, Discord's been fine for me actually. Yeah, the one that I use all the time because it's just I like to have Mission Center open all the time because I like to just see what's going on with my system. That one I'll just show you. I'll close it and then I'll open it here. Top left.
That's your number one shortcut, Task Manager?
Yes, number one, man. That is
God.
always running at all times. I actually did get some chatter in the Discord about it too, and some options.
That's some Windows Stockholm Syndrome stuff right there.
Look, sometimes you just got to find out what's hidden all those cores.
Yeah, no. I mean, for me, it's like the quickest, easiest thing for troubleshooting. It's like if I feel like, ooh, something felt real slow there, just tab over. Oh, did I notice anything? Should I, like it's just like the first thing that I look at. I know, and maybe I don't need to.
Adam, if you're always looking for trouble will find you.
Well, and you know what? The amount of times that I've had to do that on Linux, very less than on Windows. So on Windows, I ran into things where I'm like, wait, stuff is slowing down right now. Why is it doing that?
I was benchmarking the 96 core Threadripper, the crazy Falcon Northwest system, and I'd created a bunch of virtual machines to run hundreds of copies of Doom, and
of course, as you do, Level1Techs.
Oh, which Doom?
Like Doom, it was old Doom. Doom for DOS.
Okay,
the original.
Okay,
and I had copied over my preference files and stuff from Linux, and so I was like tooling around the desktop, and I was noticing like how fast and snappy everything was. I was like, oh, this is really nice. Like I was like, I wonder how the system feels when it's under load. And I noticed that I still had a virtual machine running in the background, and there was like 16 or 20 cores that were pegged, and I couldn't feel it. I had no idea.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, like I've yet to do any like serious hardcore heavy lifting stuff, but yeah, like mostly I'm staying pretty simple. Another one is that Slack, and I'm going to do it right now because I don't have Slack signed like open. Where every time I open Slack, it's signed out, and I have to re-sign into Slack.
Which browser is that?
No, it's the standalone version. And I went to their website, and they had a .deb install.
it installs an Electron version. I think Slack's always Electron.
It might be. So an easy way to troubleshoot this, it would be to open a terminal and launch Slack from the terminal, and then pay attention to the messages from Slack. Because you might get a thing like permission error, or I ran this, and it's like maybe the first time you ran Slack, it was running as root. And so you have some files in your home directory that have the wrong permissions now. And
so you think this is a Deb problem, a PAM problem, or something like that?
No, I think that he probably ran the installer as root, and then it installed correctly. And then the first time he ran Slack, he might have accidentally run it as root or a different user, and it can't create a preference file.
Well, I just opened and it didn't give me anything through terminal.
Oh yeah, it just backgrounded it.
So then what's the next step? To go to the home folder and look in .config and see if there's anything in there?
Yeah, it's to try to figure out how Slack stores its preferences, because it sounds like there's a file that's not being created somewhere or something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. We're just running through these. I do have one for the Winboat stuff. I was going to try Winboat. Some people are telling me that it's actually more complicated than some of the other things. So essentially, I'm trying to look at ways to maybe run Windows-based things in Linux, so that the amount of times I have to go back into Windows minimized. Winboat was something that some people had mentioned to me. Have you tried Winboat? No.
I haven't.
What's your recommended like diving into?
So one of the things that started my whole path down this insanity with YouTube and everything else, I thought, so like Valve bet on we're going to do this Proton wine emulation layer. I made a different big bet, and that was para-virtualization. I did guides and tutorials and how-tos and a ton of stuff on GPU pass-through.
Oh.
Create a virtual machine. This is how you do it. This is step-by-step. I did a video on like running GTA 5. It's like, here's GTA 5 running butter smooth under Linux, perfect experience, blah, blah, blah. And like people freaked out about that. And it's like, well, the secret is you have a second GPU, you do PCIe pass through. We're doing all this stuff that I was doing in a server context, but in a gaming machine. And that was what I bet. I bet that because we got hardware extensions to do lightweight CPU virtualization. Like the overhead for doing a virtual machine is very low because there's a ton of transistors and machinery in a CPU committed to virtualization. And 10 years ago, I thought that we would see the same thing with GPUs. Like we would spend some of the transistor budget to make it easy to run completely heterogeneous GPU processes on a GPU. And because of that, like as an engineering challenge, like if you're in Microsoft and you're looking at the cruft of having to support all of this from the beginning of time, it only makes sense that you would stop supporting the cruft and the awfulness and instead shove it into a container or shove it into some sort of thing that can live on for all time inside the horror container. And then we could start afresh with like the new learnings.
What container is this? You don't want to be in the horror container.
No, don't create the horror container.
So like we've learned how to do it properly. We're going to do it properly. And so instead of trying to fix all the old stuff, we just leave the old stuff where it is, like asbestos. We didn't know. And so we put all the asbestos stuff in its own container.
Windows, the asbestos of the OS world.
And we start fresh. And so my bet was that we would see the same kind of CPU virtualization with GPUs. If that hardware existed, then you wouldn't need to run 2 GPUs. And that would also make it switching platforms really easy. You could continue to support legacy Windows things just fine and be able to move forward with whatever the new technology is.
Well, I mean, they said they were going to do this with Windows 8 and Xbox One as well. Like,
yeah.
This has been a stated goal of Microsoft for a long time.
Yeah.
And they did it on the embedded devices, and then they seem to have moved away from it because the performance was bad for a multitude of reasons.
Yeah, and even Android. Android has added a lot of hardware and software, even on the GPU side, to be able to do sandboxed, containerized workloads on Android for security. And they've just never really closed the loop. They never really dotted the I's and crossed the T's on that.
If you could bring your mic up a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so we talked about this a little bit off air because there's 2 applications that I consistently have to go back into Windows for, and it's Adobe applications and it's Excel. Excel, like I actually think I'm working on some ways to maybe minimize that, but the Adobe stuff, like, I mean, is Adobe ever going to have native Linux support?
No, but it's. I mean, I'm kind of surprised because the whole Mac thing, but I don't think it's going to matter soon for Adobe because we are like Intel GPUs, like the B50. They're getting single root IO virtualization, which is the whole splitting thing, and so you would be able to run accelerated Adobe applications with Intel stuff.
You got to step back out
in a VM.
In a VM,
yeah.
Okay, but what enables that?
SRIOV, which is actually an old technology. It's existed for network cards for 10 years. That's this technology I saw 10 years ago in network cards and everything else because we need accelerated access to PCIe hardware. We only want 1 NIC. How do we do this?
Does that let you like time slice the PCI device? Is that how it works? PCI device?
It's not even time slicing, really. There's hardware on there to make the hardware able to juggle orders from multiple different operating systems at once. And so it's sort of fun.
And that's needed to be able to virtualize Adobe stuff?
Yeah, because then you get GPU acceleration, even though you don't give it its own dedicated GPU. There's a hardware facility. It's a hardware extension, like virtualization extensions for CPU.
So like if I wanted to do it now, I would have to have a system with 2 GPUs.
Yep.
So that could get around it. But you're saying in the future that's something that...
Yeah, so you're not going to need it in the future.
Okay. But is Adobe doing that? Is Intel doing that?
Intel's doing it in the case of the B50, but there are
which
also...
is a enterprise card, or not a workstation card.
It's a workstation card, yeah. But also there are a lot of software companies that are trying to close the loop on para-virtualizing on the GPU side. Red Hat is doing a lot of work for Vulkan-based 3D acceleration, but for virtual machines. And for Excel, like your Excel use case, what if I told you could run a Windows virtual machine that is very lightweight, that has full CPU acceleration, and you give 4 cores or whatever, how many cores, because these laptops got a lot of cores.
Yeah.
And you can run Excel seamlessly. You don't have the Windows Chrome, you don't have the start bar. You click on an icon, it boots the Windows virtual machine in about 3 seconds, launches Excel, and then gives you Excel via a remote desktop connection, but it's only Excel. You don't get the start menu, and you interact with it and use it on Linux just like a native application. But it is actually a remote desktop seamlessly launching and running Excel under Windows.
But it's not running the other Windows crap.
Right.
And remoting in when you say remoting, you mean like I'm not going somewhere else.
Yeah, you're remoting into a virtual machine.
Oh,
so didn't I can't remember the name of the virtual PC on Mac did this years and years ago with kind of mixed results in my experience.
Yep. You don't get GPU acceleration, and Windows 11 really wants GPU acceleration, even to just give you like, which is insane. But for Excel, it's like I want to run, my Monte Carlo simulation or whatever. You only lose 3% overhead from the virtualization aspect of it.
That's cool. It sounds awesome. But like, what kind of setup is that like? Like, is that something I could actually set up?
Yes, it is almost entirely GUI point and click, and then download a couple things, and then you use a remote desktop client. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe that's something to explore. Yeah.
That might be a fun homework. I might have to go prep some posts on the forum and then just be like, here's your paint by numbers option, but it won't be very long.
Yeah.
I love that.
That would be awesome. Cause like, and this is what happened when I went on my trip. Like I found myself, especially in a high stress work environment, to be like, you know what, I'm just going to go back to Windows and just do this because I don't want to have to futz with anything, troubleshoot anything, or, I'm used to it. Right. And the work needs to get done. So, but if I could bring it into Linux, well, so, and actually we were talking to somebody earlier, this is another side note. Somebody was like, oh, well, why don't you use Linux subsystem for Windows or whatever? The
Windows subsystem for Linux.
Yeah.
So you run Windows, but you're running Linux kind of under Windows, and it's the same kind of idea. It's para-virtualized, and it's not the Linux kernel. You're not using the Linux kernel really in that scenario.
Really?
Plumbing has been done to plug the Linux primitives into the Windows kernel.
It's the same as, I mean, it's the same thing that happens with virtualization in general, like the Proton translation, right? Is
more or less, yeah.
Is that they're looking at what APIs are called and where those hook in, and just plugging them straight into the Windows equivalent. I guess.
Microsoft is leveraging its VMS ancestry finally.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean that was my homework, more or less.
POSIX, I guess, more correctly.
Yeah. Everybody loves POSIX, right?
Yeah.
That's our next podcast. Everybody loves POSIX. It's just all command line tools.
I'm out.
So my homework, my big project is I have a 3 SSD array in my gaming machine that's a striped Windows array, and it's like 6 terabytes, and it's full enough that moving the data off it was a pain in the butt because I wanted to move one of those SSDs to Linux, and it turns out the only way to do that is to completely nuke that stripe and start from scratch because I made bad choices 4 years ago. So I did the backup work for that, moved everything off, and then I got on a plane to come on this trip. So I haven't actually done the next step, but I'm at the crossroads now because my plan is 2 drives for Windows, probably NTFS, mainly because I do a lot of UE development, and that's going to eat one of those drives. And then I don't know what I'm going to do with the other one. I'll figure out with that later.
Could you virtualize Unreal Engine development?
Yep. You can.
You don't want to.
Okay. So like the thing you think I never, as the person who does the least important work on a game engine, but still needs to have access to stuff to grab screenshots and stuff. I never want to have a problem that's caused by something stupid I've done with the computer that causes somebody whose time is actually valuable and important to like stop what they're doing and help me with stuff. So I run the most plain vanilla, like I follow their installation and environment setup instructions as precisely as I can so that I'm not ever the problem. Now, the question I have is that third drive, I want to put my Steam library and my game libraries on there. Mm-hmm. And I want to do something real stupid and share them between the Windows and the Linux side so that I don't have to download them in multiple places. And the question is,
because he doesn't have fiber, he doesn't have 10 gig fiber like I do. So, he just doesn't want to have to re-download his games.
Yeah. Anyway, quiet you. The question is, do I run ButterFS and put the ButterFS driver for Windows on the Windows side, or do I run NTFS and do the NTFS driver on the Linux side?
Or neither.
Know. I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look at that. My first instinct is actually to do VFAT, but that might be terrible advice. I don't know. I'd have to look at it.
VFAT, the virtualized FAT thing? Is that what? I don't know what that is.
That's like the FAT file system that works with like a large-ish, because it's only 2 terabytes, right?
It's only 2 terabytes.
It's the FAT file system that works with large-ish stuff because it has the most feature-complete, writability thing for Linux. I think you can do writes on NTFS now without really a lot of headache on Linux.
problem is permissions, is my guess.
VFAT doesn't have that problem.
So that's just because so like my wild card was, is it just put FAT32 on this and call it a day? And
FAT32,
yeah.
That's VFAT.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So
okay,
that's the extension, like FAT beyond FAT.
Okay,
to handle large devices. So I think FAT32 craps out at like something that 2 terabytes wouldn't work for. I think.
Okay, so I'll give it a try and report back.
Yeah,
I will say there was chatter in our Discord, and people were like, "This is a horrible idea. You should not do this."
Yeah, no, look, this is one of those ones when I started doing the searching, it was pretty much an even split between I'm trying to do something stupid and I've done something stupid. And then there were the people saying, yeah, I totally got this to work and it's awesome, except for when it doesn't in unpredictable ways. So,
I mean, luckily it's just your games library. So really worst case scenario,
Linux gives you a lot of really amazing facilities for working around that though. So like, let's say that the game files, like I'm just imagining in my head, I know a little bit about like the Steam file layout for games off the top of my head. It has like the application ID number and there's binary files in there. And so like all of that probably is portable between Windows and Linux. That's probably not a lot different. It's easy for me to imagine that like Proton and some of the configuration and like there are maybe like some of those little files that are outside the app, like those are different. But you could actually work around that problem in Linux really easily with like symbolic links. So you can have a Steam directory that is all different and is in your home folder or whatever, but then for the individual games when you need the big binary files, it's just a symbolic link out to the VFAT drive or wherever it is, and that'll work fine.
Well, then the other thing somebody pointed out is that for the handful of games that do actually have Linux native versions, you're going to have I'm going to have to either choose the Helldivers on the Windows side or choose the Helldivers on the Linux side and not cross those streams. Same thing for like Dead Cells, which famously has Linux versions because those folks have supported Linux really well.
How would you know?
You don't. That's the weird thing about Steam now.
Okay, yeah.
When you click install, it doesn't say, "Hey, do you want me to do the Windows version with the Proton, or do you want to do the Linux native?" And you can choose I want to say you can get into the versions and choose when you're in the properties, but you have Proton, to actually look for Proton. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
I feel certain for Helldivers 2, like I can go run that experiment on one of my machines probably, and I feel certain for Helldivers 2 that there is a workaround so that you don't actually have 2 copies of Helldivers, but Linux gets its special bits and Windows gets its special bits, and one of them is pointing to, like there's some magic. Linux makes it really easy to, under the hood, do that kind of file system manipulation, and applications are like, okay, I guess this is fine.
So then the other option is, I guess I could put a 1 terabyte ButterFS and a 1 terabyte NTFS and just never let the twain cross.
I mean, it would be fun to try to get it to like be the most efficient thing possible. There are folks in our community that are running like their Steam library on like iSCSI on their NAS and crazy stuff like that.
Craziness.
It works great for them.
Don't they get the hey, we've noticed that you're not on an SSD, your computer, this is going to be slow, and like that's my favorite because on the Windows striped array, it's like this isn't an SSD. Because Windows is stupid.
Wait, you get that notification when you try to launch the game?
When I try to launch the game.
Every time?
Every time.
Oh,
and it's like,
annoying.
Hey, you should consider putting this you get an SSD, you rusted metal.
Wow. Oh, that's funny. I had no idea that they did that.
Okay, so then I had some other stuff which I'm going to push to next week because, I had a weird problem with OBS. So I'm running on the desktop, I'm running OBS, it's an NVIDIA card, and anytime I tried to open a full screen projector on the NVIDIA card, it crashed OBS immediately, like just boom, insta crash. And I did the research, I dug in, and it turns out there's scene drama on Wayland, unsurprisingly. And people were like, no, we're not going to fix this. This is an NVIDIA driver product, blah, 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 blah. And then somebody was like, oh, if you turn off this thing with an environment variable and it works, and it's like NV scale something. And so then I had to go, I'm running Cache, which defaults to fish instead of bash. So all the instructions for setting environment variables were set blah, 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 which is the bash command. I had to go figure out the fish command for setting environment variables. I finally got there. It all works. It's good. That was a bit of a challenge. But it helped me a lot when I was like, I'm running GNOME 49 on my laptop, and I wanted to have the scaling by default in GNOME 49 right now is 100%, 200%, or 0% for your pixel scaling on, and this is like a 2880 by 1400 or 1600 display or something like that.
Yep.
Neither of those were good options.
Yeah.
200 is like having a 1440p display.
Yeah.
Or 900p display rather, sorry. and 100 meant I had to get a pair of binoculars to see the screen. So I dug in, and it turns out there's an environment variable there I could flip that lets me do the variable scaling that does it based on the pixel density of the display. And that's been fantastic. So I'm running at like 166% now, and it's wonderful.
Okay, so I can fix the last one, the GNOME thing. There is a utility for GNOME that's like GNOME Tweak Tool.
That one isn't supported on GNOME 49 yet. Yeah.
Because that totally has a fix-up in it for doing the incremental scaling.
Yeah.
So that's just, you have tripped over something because you are on the bleeding edge.
This is the problem. Like, I was looking what version of GNOME I had. I was expecting to see like 47 or something, and it was like 49. I was like, oh, I didn't know there was a GNOME 49.
Isn't that the newest one?
Yeah, it's hot. It's hot business.
Coming in. Wait, did you manually upgrade to that or?
It's cashy, man.
Cashy. Oh, because it's rolling.
Only the new shit.
Yeah. The most bleeding edge stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have any more?
I got
homework?
one more.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because I want to get back to this.
Well, I want to talk about. You haven't seen the episode yet, but we went to talk to folks at Framework about laptops and Linux. And out of that, I started thinking about tiling window managers. And I installed Omarchi on the burner laptop, on the Play laptop. And man,
it gets in your brain, don't it?
It's like it haunts me, man.
Yeah.
So I sat there, and while I should have been packing, getting ready for this trip, I was sitting futzing around with Omarchi and Hyperland and learning a bunch of keyboard shortcuts. I was like, this is a real weird way to use the computer. And then after like an hour and a half, I was like, this is a real smart way to use a computer. And so for folks that don't know, tiling window managers, you can't drag windows around.
You can, but you need a keyboard shortcut. By default, it encourages you not to, because you don't need to.
Yeah, when you open up a window, it just jams it on the screen. It just makes everything else smaller, scooches it over or whatever. And it's actually kind of iPad-y.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, if you're using multitasking on an iPad.
That doesn't sound good.
But what if that space was infinite instead of just 2, 3, or 4 things?
See, I feel like the podcast audience is not taking away the right context for this, and how you need to interpret this in the back of your brain is like Morpheus explaining, like, is that air you think you're breathing?
That's it. It's the first time I've seen a new metaphor for computer UI since like the iPad came out, honestly. Yeah. and like my brain was this was real good brain, right? Like, and then I started looking at the Hyperland stuff, and Hyperland has some baggage. The community seems like
more drama.
There are reports of some fairly extreme toxicity in the deep, dark recesses of that community. I don't think you have to engage with that if you don't want to. But then somebody was like, "Hey, you should, if you think Hyperland's cool, you should look at Neary." And then, what if it was Hyperland, but instead of having a bunch of virtual desktops, it just scrolls infinitely sideways, horizontally? And I was like,
it doesn't loop back.
I mean, I guarantee you there's a setting to let you loop back. But the idea is every time you launch something, it just goes further right. And then you organize your stuff based on either you have virtual scrolls that are for tasks. So like you have your video editing scroll, and you have your writing text scroll, and you have your browsing the internet scroll, and you have your farting around on Discord scroll. Or if you're crazy, you just put them all on one big long scroll, and it's like, here's my day. Every day I do this first, and then I do this, then I check my email, and then I just always be scrolling. And so when I get back home, I got a project.
Yeah, it's I haven't gone that crazy with it. But you do learn, especially if the stuff that you do with your computer, you end up having to do a lot of context switching, like mental context switching. Mm-hmm. I really enjoy setting up different workspaces for the different projects that I work on. And sometimes the projects are years long, but it's like, this is my workspace for this project. And I might only be able to work on this project 2 or 3 hours at a time over the course of a year. But it is really an incredible productivity hack being able to save and restore the exact environment, exact window layout, browser tabs, exactly from the moment I stop to the moment I pick it up again.
Yeah. And so when I switched back to the laptop with GNOME, the first thing I did was try to like WinKey 3 back to my and I didn't have it set up, and I was like, oh, now I'm a little sad. So I'm feeling it. Right now I'm looking at a Notion window that's just floating in the middle of the screen like a doofus. But anyway, so that was my afternoon with Hyperland and Omarchi, and I'm excited to explore that a little bit more.
I think also Omarchy is another thing with Linux in terms of sometimes you see it's like, you know, you're going to be disappointed in Linux if you expect the Windows experience or you expect the Mac experience. But, you know, DAH, the guy that did Ruby on Rails, Omarchy in a lot of ways is what he wants the experience to be in Linux, using a carefully selected, a carefully curated collection of all of the masses of insanity. So he's made all of the choices for you. He's giving you a lovely ice cream that has nougat and chocolate and whatever.
It also feels like it's very much the thing that he wants rather than the thing that's designed for. And like he's a person who writes code, and like that's not what I do. I have a different series of workflows. And Narav and I talked about this a little bit in the framework interview. It'll be up soon. I don't know when we're going to post that, but
yeah, just launching Steam is kind of broken on Omarchy.
Yeah. So like I like the idea of an opinionated distro, but I don't know that that's the right opinion for me.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Well, and that's actually something, excuse me, that's actually something we talked about in our interview over on the PCWorld channel. If you want to go watch that, is that how it's kind of weird because on, you know, Windows and Mac OS, it's a walled garden. They're making decisions for you. Yes, you have a little bit of, you know, wiggle room in your harness, but
every
not a ton.
time I make a choice in the Windows GUI, it always resets it.
Yeah, right.
It might take 6 months. It might be immediate, but it will be like, no, you don't want that.
Well, and then on the Linux side,
Wendell, don't worry, your data's safe. We got you.
And then on the Linux side, it's like it's free. You can do whatever you want, but there are certain parts of Linux, like Omarchy, like Bazite. We were talking about the gaming distro ones, where they're walling off more, which is a good thing. But is that a good thing?
Yeah, it's walling it off in a way that you can take the training wheels off, but it is setting it up so that a user that is uninitiated has a better experience. You can't get into a state where you've updated Bazite and you accidentally have an old fonts package. That is physically impossible with the choices that they've made.
Because they ship the entire thing as a bucket every time.
Yeah, the whole distro is immutable, basically. That is what is meant by an immutable. And so like that's why I say philosophically that when you're looking at it in that context, like Arch and Ubuntu are closer together than Ubuntu and Bazite.
Or Omarchy.
Or Omarchy, yeah.
Yeah, because some of those decisions are already made for you.
Well, Omarchy is also, but Omarchy is not, the decisions are made for you, but it's not locked down. So whereas Bazite is, I'm going to install these packages, and you have your preferences and you have your stuff, but there is a clear ironclad line in what you have done, what you've chosen.
And in Bazite, if I say install something in Bazite that doesn't ship with the immutable image, is it just saving in my home folder someplace? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so like you can get into weird states, but diagnosis becomes really easy because it's like you can create a temporary user, log on as that user and be like, does this work? And it's like, oh yeah, this works fine.
It really seems like the whole immutable thing is the future for low maintenance OS software.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you think about how, because Mac OS, Apple's done the same thing with Mac OS, kind of in a gradual fits and starts way over the last 5-6 years. Windows kind of does it, but not in a way that the actual it's like they're taking the worst of both worlds.
Yeah,
because
they really
have
are.
this janky layer that lives in your home folder, and then they also just let you can go into System32 and start deleting stuff, and it'll absolutely let you do that if you want.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that.
I gotta say, having you like describe it that way. I mean, obviously we've talked about Bazite. I have installed Bazite on one of my gaming handhelds. For gaming specifically, but I actually kind of like that because there's plenty of times where, like, especially as I'm getting to know this stuff and starting out, like, I'm like, man, I also don't know what I could break. Also, I don't know if I broke something. You know, maybe you don't actually know until a couple months later. So, like, I almost kind of like that idea, but like for me, like I'm trying to figure out the work side of it. Like, and Bazite wouldn't be a good distro for like trying to do just normal work like DaVinci and, you know, like, maybe. Oh, okay.
I don't know. It just depends. And I'm sure that there are a lot of like super in the know people that are, to an extent, Ubuntu does do some of the same kind of auditing and bookkeeping. So like if you have a package that you've installed and then you go overwrite a file that's from the package, in some of the auto cleanup stuff that Ubuntu does, it'll be like, wait a minute, this file isn't from the package, and it'll just quietly go to the package cache and pull the file and just clobber it. So as a way to protect you from yourself. But in terms of like conflicting packages or a package that meets a dependency that's not maybe the package that the other package maintainers expect, you can get yourself into weird situations with that. And that's the kind of stuff that Bazzite sort of works around.
Well, but I mean, the other thing fundamentally is that 20, even 10 years ago, I think you had to understand a lot of this stuff to be a Linux user.
And I think
now, you can just install Ubuntu and go.
Yeah.
And like eventually you might hit a problem that ends you up on the Level1Techs forum. but for the most part, if you just want to install and do stuff in a browser and record audio and do Zoom and all that stuff, it kind of just works. It's either going to work or it's not, and there's not a whole lot in between.
Yeah, the thing that always blows my mind is that Windows doesn't have a package manager. There's WinGet, and it seems like WinGet...
Is that what you use, right?
WinGet and Chocolate, there's a bunch of them now. They all have weird problems.
Yeah.
WinGet was getting good there for a while, and it was almost like somebody inside Microsoft had a panic attack. I was like, no, this is too good. We really need people to interact with web pages in order to download software, and we can't have people install WinGet from the Microsoft store because then that'll hurt our metrics. And so we have to like sabotage WinGet.
But I assume WinGet's pulling from the same thing that the Microsoft store is, and they just let it seems like they have a spam problem, honestly, more than anything. Because like you try to install Discord and there's 23 different things. Only one of them's the real Discord, and the other ones, I assume they scan for malware.
Probably
but who
not.
knows? Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
Chocolatey's pretty good. I know there's another one that people like. I can't remember what it's called.
I've only ever used Chocolatey and WinGet.
Yeah, there's a newer one that people like that's a little bit more Linuxy in that it will do things like go back in and clobber files, but I haven't used it at all. I was gonna ask you about the idea of user repositories because it kind of spins off of this, right? I'm running an Arch based distro. I'm using Paru, which gives me kind of unifies all of the different places I can get software. It looks at the main cache repositories, looks at the Arch repos. It looks at the Arch user repository, AUR, and it seems to prioritize cache stuff first, then Arch stuff, then AUR. And I guess it'll do Flatpaks and stuff like that if I was using any Flatpaks, but I'm finding AUR to be pretty robust. But at the end of the day, with the Arch user repository, I'm taking software that presumably someone's looked at like the deb install for the Electron version of Slack, and they've unpacked that and reworked it to work in the Arch ecosystem, and then packaged it back up and put a build script in and sent that up in a way that like users can just hit a button and install. But if somebody wanted to insert malicious code in there, it'd be pretty trivial for them to do that.
Yep.
And like I don't know, like right now my sense has been, hey, if this is getting downloaded a lot, it's probably okay because somebody would have noticed something.
Yeah, that's why when you use the AUR or Peru and you're getting something from the AUR, it'll ask you a lot of the times like, hey, do you want to look at the diffs for the thing that's been signed?
Yeah.
And so like you might have something that has been cryptographically signed, and so like we assume that's okay and that there's no malware there. But maybe in the diff somebody could introduce something, and so you can look in the diff, like you can read the diff and see what it's doing and see if it's doing anything obviously malicious. It could still be doing something non-obviously malicious. And this really isn't a lot different than, if you just Google something and you download it and it's like, the SEO spammers might have won that day, and then you just install it and run it on your system, and then it gets into a weird state, and then what happens?
You click the wrong ad on SourceForge. This is download file, and next thing you know,
it's the worst.
Yeah,
I think the real solution for recovering from that kind of thing is having really robust operating system level snapshot and rollback. Windows does not have that.
Yeah.
A lot of the Linux distros out of the box do not have that. CachyOS now in their installer has a good snapshot and rollback system, which is fantastic.
The place I saw it was in the Windows Hello under apps and Cachy Hello. Sorry,
I was Windows Hello. What?
In Cachy Hello, the thing that pops up the first time you install, there's an apps and tweaks button. And in there, it was like, do you want to install snapper support? Do you install cache updater? Do you want to install gaming tools? And yeah.
That won't find every kind of malware, but that would at least let you find a lot of the common kinds of malware. Stealing a password obviously is, a kind of thing that they want to do. Stealing a crypto wallet, that kind of thing. But some of the mechanisms in Linux in terms of protecting that and isolating even your login and your password and your stuff behind things that you have to interact with your machine, the fingerprint reader or TPM or whatever. There are hardware features that can help harden against those kinds of things, but we're not. There's a roadmap, but yeah, we're not really there yet.
Okay. So if you have a crypto wallet that's worth millions of dollars,
maybe have a different machine for that.
You have a machine that you just use for that one wallet. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm not in that situation, so I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'll be fine.
Wink, wink.
I think that's it. I mean, that's what I could talk about the LibrePods thing. We can save that for next week too.
Well, there was something I wanted to circle back to, and now I don't remember what it is. I mentioned it earlier before you were done with your
tiling desktop environments.
No, it was the GNOME 49.
The environment variables. Scaling.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised in the AUR there's not like a Git version of the GNOME tweak utilities. Like that's got to be less than a week out, I would think, because that's like, or what's going on? Like, why isn't anybody working on the tweak utilities?
I mean, so the thing I installed the GNOME extension manager. Maybe I was misunderstanding what the GNOME tweak utilities, because in the extension manager there's an extension for scaling your desktop and variable scaling your desktop that is like, we're not supporting GNOME 49, which is because it's going to have native support. They just haven't. It's still
they haven't written it yet.
Yeah. So the flag was to enable the beta support for the variable scaling in GNOME 49, which, yeah.
Okay.
Anyway.
That's weird.
Real quick, is it GNOME or is it GNOME?
It's GNU's not Unix, and so it's GNOME, but I don't think they care. I don't think anybody cares.
No, I think there's some people who care. we know somebody who's like, no, it's GNOME.
GNU's not Unix.
Yeah.
So
it's like wine. Wine is not
an emulator.
Yeah. Is
Proton like that too? Is
Proton right?
What's the Proton? Is it an acronym?
I don't know.
I don't think Proton. I don't know. That is weird. There was a new update to Ubuntu 25.10.
That's not an LTS version though.
It's not the LTS version.
No, the .10s are never LTS.
Yeah, I'm running LTS. But I saw a video of somebody saying, "Wow, they killed the terminal. They're changing it to
Alacrity.
No, PCWorld. I don't know how to say that.
It's got a silent P.
PTYXIS.
Wow.
So they're changing the back end. Should I be worried? They're changing my terminal.
Probably not. There's a lot of like consternation, let's call it, from changes that Canonical is making, and some of it is around Rust, and some of it is around how they're going to do like PTYs, and it's like, oh my god, they're rewriting core utils to use Rust, and it's like, I mean, the goal is Rust is memory safe, and you would not have certain kinds of bugs, but the Rust replacements are not at feature or feature parity or full compatibility with the things that they're replacing. And so to do that wholesale now seems like lunacy, but also some of the people that are complaining about that, I think they don't understand that the replacement is not quite as imminent as they would seem to suggest in their screaming. And so I don't know
familiar.
I don't know if this PTY, it's like, oh, we're going to do this changes from the terminal. I don't know. Everybody is really sensitive to this kind of stuff ever since Leonard Pottering and all of his System D stuff, because it's like, oh, System D is taking over the universe, and it's like, yes, on the one hand, System D is, there's a lot of heartburn and insanity from System D having taken over the universe in terms of like how it manages the system, but at the same time, we kind of needed something like System D to do the work of System D, and so it's like Leonard Pottering probably gets some unfair heat from that kind of thing, and is, you know, hopefully he's built up a thick skin. But I can kind of see both sides of it, because there's old school Debian people that are like, this should be a file, everything should be in a file, I should be able to understand what my system is doing just by reading text files. And on the systemd side, it's like, no, systemd needs to manage DNS and DHCP and your network management, and it needs to have facilities all the way down to boot. Like, you don't even need grub. Like, we're just going to have systemd boot now, and systemd is going to manage booting. And it's like, I kind of get it. Like, it's a very diplomatic answer, I guess, but you know, I kind of get it.
Well,
I was going to say Linux people seems like maybe don't like change.
Yeah, they don't like change.
Yeah.
They also don't like not being able to immediately look at something and understand it. It's like, this is going to require reading you into a situation and a little bit of background and, like, you know, some prologue stuff. Linux people are not about the prologue stuff in a lot of ways.
You say that, but then I look at the man page for like RM and it's 3,000 words for just the opener, and you're like, this is too much. I just wanted to know how to delete a folder with stuff in it, man. So yeah.
I got a couple more real quick ones. Number one, why does NVIDIA get such a bad rap on Linux? Like, people are usually like, oh, no, don't run NVIDIA.
It's really how they've approached binary drivers, and how they have approached, you know, compatibility with the larger Linux ecosystem. They want to maintain, you know, their proprietariness. Like, no, this is NVIDIA. We are NVIDIA. This is an NVIDIA thing. And the Linux kernel itself is open source, and it is GPL. And so NVIDIA has made changes. NVIDIA is trying to become, I think, a better steward in that kind of context. But AMD is still miles ahead of NVIDIA in terms of, like, how they're integrating with and working within the larger Linux ecosystem. So AMD has parts of their driver that is proprietary too, but they put it in a binary blob file or a firmware file. And so AMD opens up the interface, they open up the source, everything can live in the Linux kernel. And then when it comes time to, like, actually initialize the GPU, it'll load some stuff from the binary blob into the GPU, the firmware file into the GPU. And the GPU is able to initialize and run, but everybody can see stuff going in and out of the GPU. It works pretty great. Whereas with some of what NVIDIA is doing, it's not truly open source, and so you can't incorporate into the kernel in the same way as the interface exists. Now, the very latest, and for like Blackwell, like 5000 series GPUs, when you install it, it's like, do you want the open driver, or do you want, you know, the proprietary driver? And the open driver is also like the MIT license, so it's even more open and permissive than the GPL driver. The Linux kernel is licensed under, which is also a little problematic because, you know, the GPL guarantees certain things. So, like, if I have a system that's running Linux, if somebody hands me a system that's running Linux, I can say, give me the source code so that I can reproduce this. The MIT license doesn't require that. And so it's like, here is all of the stuff, you know, there you go.
You can use this however you want, but you don't have to share it again.
Right, yeah.
Is the thing. Yeah.
And so a lot of businesses are really happy with that type of licensing arrangement, because they don't have to share their. Sometimes you see it's like, oh, this NAS maker is using GPL code. Where's my source code for this? Because they don't want to share what changes they made in order to have it work. So the MIT license doesn't require that the changes be shared in exactly the same way. And so some people are also offended by that, because it's like, you're not, like, it's GPL. Like, Linux gives you this, you give back. How hard is this to understand?
It's interesting though, because, like, this is another one of the things I've hit a couple of times, is that, like, I'm very practical about a lot of this stuff, and I'm not an ideologue when it comes to open source software. I think open source is great. I've done a podcast about open source software. I'm a fan. Don't yell at me, please. But when I need to do something with my computer, I kind of don't care, as long as I can get it to work. And it's hard to know when you're reading about arguments on the internet. Like, is the thing with Wayland and Xorg, is that an ideological argument? Is that a technical argument? Is that a backwards compatibility argument? Or is it something I could just not worry about and just run whatever I run? And this kind of fits in the same category for a lot of end users, the GPU thing.
The most amazing story that is related to that, it's like, okay, you got the pragmatists and the idealists, and it'll always be the war between the pragmatists and the idealists. But there are some really amazing stories Joel Spolsky and others had from their time at Microsoft. And one of the most amazing ones was when I think Windows 95 was coming out, and the pragmatists were winning inside Microsoft at that point. And there have been times where the idealists were winning, and there have been times where the pragmatists were winning.
Did the idealist win the Longhorn v1 argument? Is that what happened?
And then it failed catastrophic. Yeah. So the pragmatists for Windows 95 were looking at SimCity for DOS, among others. And so like SimCity for DOS would crash under Windows 95. So clearly Windows 95 is a hot garbage. The reality was that SimCity for DOS had a use after free bug, which is it would free memory and then use it one last time to close out some kind of construct. And so the Windows people for SimCity for DOS had to figure out and debug without the source code to SimCity that it was a use after free bug. And the easiest way to fix it was to change the Windows 95 memory allocator so that when it knows that it's playing SimCity, that it doesn't actually reallocate memory just freed by SimCity. Because otherwise people would be like, this Windows 95 thing is garbage because I can't play SimCity under Windows 95.
That is wild.
Yeah.
And how many of those edge cases did they support in Windows 95?
Thousands. Yeah.
Right.
So there was a team where some guy would just go to like the bargain bin software and he's like, all right, here's the 5 things we're going to fix this week. And they were just literally just buying everything that they possibly could, testing it, figuring out, and they built tools for doing the debugging. The pragmatists were winning, but if they hadn't done that, Windows 95 probably wouldn't have had the adoption that it had.
Yeah, I mean, the beautiful thing about Windows 95 back at that time was you bought it and it ran your old software and all the new stuff worked on it as well. And that was the difference it had with OS2 Warp or whatever other stuff was out at the time, right?
They're right now, my fear is that for the commercial companies working on Linux and for all of the work being done across Wayland and Mir, well, Mir's not really a thing, but like between Wayland and Xorg and the new Libra Xorg and all of this stuff, is everybody is a little bit idealist in their own little fiefdom, and there are not enough people that are willing to just roll up their sleeves and get their hands dirty. And it's like, yeah, this is not, should be good enough. Like perfection is really getting in the way of good enough. Like we're going to have to do these things, and this is an imperfect solution for right now, but we do have the influx of users. We do have the massive users. We do have the positive mind to share. We should leverage the positive mind share, because we are building something bigger than ourselves and greater than ourselves, and something that will be here for posterity. We are building 100-year infrastructure. Nobody is going to have this. Like nobody's going to care about, it's like, oh, Windows 95 or 3.1 is a curiosity for the Smithsonian at this point. But Linux, as it was in the late 90s and early 2000s, is still incredibly useful today in a lot of ways. And in a century from now, the code that is running in Linux is arguably going to be more valuable than anything else. And so I think that folks working on this in the larger context, setting aside those kinds of things, like this is what we need to build, they don't always keep that in mind.
Well, the other thing that I think people who use computers but don't know about computer history is that the new modern closed source infrastructure that we've all come to expect as the status quo is a relatively late addition, right? Yeah. Like it was prior to Microsoft in the 80s, software was open, code was open. A lot of it wasn't even compiled. It was just you could just open up the file and see the code.
Yeah.
And we're in it isn't necessarily the way things always have been, the way they have to be, and the way they will be forever. So
I think that on the other side of the coin, on the consumer side, I think there's going to be a renaissance because companies have locked down things to the point where it's insane. Like, oh, I've got ads on my fridge. Yeah. And it's like, okay, we're going to get to a point where the fridge is just a simple, dumb display device. And the thing that's pushing the ads to the fridge is different than the thing that's displaying the ads. And if people don't vote with their wallet to solve that situation, it's probably going to be solved at a regulatory level because people just will not tolerate that level of insanity.
It turns out maybe trading the ability to get free hot takes on the internet for running arbitrary code on your computers and every device in your house, maybe not the best move.
Yeah. Right to repair.
Last question. Do you think 2025 is the year of Linux?
The year of the Linux desktop. This has been more the year of the Linux desktop than any other year prior. And You can game on Linux. You can do a lot on Linux. You can get a lot of really amazing productivity. At the same time, it's like, does the year of the Linux desktop come about because other incumbent operating system vendors have basically just given up? It's like, oh, you run your Office apps in the browser. Like your Excel problem, you can run Excel in Edge on Linux, kind of offline, sort of. And it's like, that's another path to be able to run Excel on Linux natively as an application, just running it in Edge.
I mean, but if it gets there because Microsoft is, asleep at the wheel, that's not a bad thing though, right?
Look, it's like,
who cares how you got there?
It's like Homer Simpson said, default the 2 sweetest words in the English language.
Yeah.
What?
They're
winning by default.
I think
2 sweetest words.
I think also there is a kind of like a fun side conversation in that like LibreOffice. Look at LibreOffice. It's like, oh, LibreOffice can like drop in and it's good to go. If you look at the actual LibreOffice code base, it is impossible. Like, I want to make a change to the LibreOffice code base and I want to solve this bug. I want to have this feature. I want to do whatever. Unless you have dedicated a large percentage of your life to being able to do that kind of code analysis, you're stuck.
Well, and still, after 20 years of development on LibreOffice or Google Docs or any of the other Office clones, if I take a contract that my lawyer sends me, open it in their thing, and then send it back to my lawyers, the first thing they're going to say is, what the hell did you do to all the sub-apps? Right?
Yes, exactly.
Every single time.
Every single time. But AI tools and development tools are going to make it to where a much smaller subset of people are able to deal with and clean up that code. So imagine the tools to take ancient code and put it in a modern DevOps workflow, and it's like, here, AI, the output has to exactly match the input. We've got this impossibly complex, like the giant hill that Microsoft built that's impossible for other people to climb, which is the proprietary Office file formats. We've built this amazing Rube Goldberg machine that is self-learning in terms of dealing with that format and making sure that it doesn't break the thing.
I guarantee you I'm still going to get the what the hell did you do to my sub-apps? I have one more question that comes off of that.
Please.
I'm sorry, Adam.
Yeah.
But do you, one of the things I feel like as somebody who like can write a Python script kind of, but not really, is often Linux feels like a thing that's made for programmers, right? A lot of like, Marchie's a perfect example. That exists because DHH built his own version of Arch using Hyperland, and then was like, oh, I could just package this up and start and get other people to work on it instead of just me, and it's working out, right? Do you feel like you have to, like, there's an endpoint that ends with Adam learning how to write C code because he's getting into Linux now, or do you think that's going to fade as more people come on board?
I think that someone from the community is going to emerge as kind of a charismatic leader that is able enough to wield development tools to make reasonable choices for that interface. For the best parts of Steve Jobs, in terms of like, it needs to do this. This is what I need it to do. This is how it should be in terms of a user-facing interaction. Because I think Microsoft and Apple both have sort of forgotten what that means. Because look at the new version of iOS. It's like, oh, the iPad experience is like even more iPad-y. And it's like, I need extra steps in order to do A, B, C, X, Y, Z. I think that now there are enough Lego bricks in the Linux, like the Linux experience, that you can have a DAH, take Omarchy and do that. But the barrier for somebody that understands what the human interface should be is now low enough that somebody else that is a little bit programmery can take it and build it and make something good. Because Steve Jobs is not a super technical person.
No.
But he understood what the experience should be.
He had a real vision for how a normal person would interact with a computer 10 years before anybody else did.
The money that Google spent on Android is going to be it's not one order or 2 orders of magnitude less. I think it's going to be 3 or 4 orders of magnitude less. An individual rando is going to be able to put together an experience like that, and then everybody's going to look at that and say, oh yeah, this makes sense. This is what we should roll with.
So if you're the rando, call us.
Yeah. And thanks for watching Dual Boot Diaries or listening. I appreciate it. And thank you, Wendell,
no worries,
for sitting down.
Thanks for having me.
I realized earlier on, I called you the final boss, but we didn't explain what that meant. Is because I feel like, when we finally are done with this journey and we're ready to delete one of those partitions, whether it'll be Linux or Windows, that we like you're the final boss. Either you're the one who deletes it for us, or we do some sort of challenge in front of you to get your blessing.
Well, look, what's the right way to dual boot? This is the thing. When we started this, I never expected people to be like,
and now even I know the right way to dual boot.
Do you?
Yeah, okay. Separate drives, man.
Yeah,
like on one drive.
You don't want to do the partitions. Windows is going to eat that.
No, you just gotta do a stub. You gotta have 2 boot partitions on the same. It's fine. This only has 1 SSD slot. I gotta make choices.
Yeah. Well, no, but thank you.
No, thank you.
Wendell.
Thanks for having me.
I really am trying not to just call you up for every problem. I'm trying to understand.
It's all good.
How things happen.
I like how the default thing is like all Linux users are super judgy.
Well, I mean, look, there's a long history of, and you still see it. Like, look, I went in the Hyperland, and it was like, hey man, read the effing manual, and I was like, I haven't seen that one yet. Our Discord community is so nice and welcoming, and they're
really good.
Oh, hey, if it's okay, I have a couple of ideas for some things that you might like to try. And then they hit me with like 4 text editors that completely have changed my life. So yeah, and none of them are NeoVim. So quiet, you.
Excellent.
Yeah.
No, it is good stuff. Yeah, you have Level1Techs. You also have Level1Linux. You're doing awesome stuff, and yeah, like.
For real, check out the forums. The forums are an unbelievable resource.
I actually haven't gotten in there. Yeah, maybe I should get in there and poke around.
Fun times.
Yeah, thank you, Wendell.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks everybody for watching. Will, thanks for being on this journey.
It's a pleasure, man.
Yeah,
it's just like The Bachelorette, right? We're on this journey together. Every time you say we're on the journey, I think we're on a bad reality show.
Okay.
At the end of the day,
yeah,
somebody's going to get voted off of Windows Island, and it's going to be Windows.
Right now, it's going to be track down the Helvetica package.
Yeah,
yeah, pretty much. Also, like because we're kind of doing this really early, I have not thought about really any homework for next week, so we'll figure it out when we get there. So anyway,
look, take the list of stuff we said we are going to do for this week, last week, and just skip a week because we got to talk to Wendell instead.
Something like that. Yeah, so. Always good to talk to Wendell.
Yeah.
Thank
I showed
you.
him PowerTop.
Yeah, and B-Top too.
Yeah. Thanks everybody. We'll catch you in the next one. See you later.